Good morning. Currently on the camel trail, running towards Bodmin again. Another day of practicing running. Just turned around in Bodmin at the jail again. Its current distance is about 11.5 kilometers. Might not be filming much till I'm done running. Kind of want to concentrate on just keeping going. Just reached half marathon. Again, just under 2 hours. So I've been kind of running an experiment today, seeing if I consume plenty of electrolytes, if that makes a difference. To be honest, I feel a lot closer to my legs cramping right now than I did 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago I didn't start having my electrolyte drink until basically this point. So I'm still not sure about the cramp. My legs pretty much feel like how they felt when I finished 2 weeks ago. Having said that though, I think my head feels different, if that makes any sense. I feel more alert, I guess. Less fatigued in general. But it's just my calf muscles specifically still feel quite close to cramping after doing half marathon without stopping. Well, I did a bit more than that because I kept going into the town a bit. Feels like my legs are just saying no right now. I ran briefly, but it's the most I can do right now is walk. Got about 16k more to do a marathon, and half walking and half running would match the time that I got 2 weeks ago. Not sure I could manage even that right now. To be honest though, if I just spend the rest of the day walking, I'll be quite happy to do that today. I already ran half marathon at least, so I can be happy with that and spend the rest of the day enjoying the weather, I guess. I think it's definitely any running is just done now today. My legs are just giving up. I'm gonna stop for a minute, but I will continue walking. So I feel perfectly comfortable doing that. Or I will do after my legs have recovered a bit, but they're not getting any better basically. So running seems out of the question. It's a bit unfortunate. I'm not sure exactly why I'm not on it today. I feel like I did everything right today, but I don't know. Sometimes I guess just don't have enough energy. But yeah, still got the rest of the day to wander about and go to some nice places. It's a nice day, so I don't want to go home or anything. I'm perfectly happy to walk about. But I think I'm calling off the running for now. It's probably sensible if I don't feel on it. There's no point in trying to push myself into it. There will be plenty more time to do more running. Well, I made it to the beach. To be honest, my legs still don't feel great. Although it's not my calves, it's migrated upwards into my thighs. which I've not really felt discomfort there before, but there's a first time for everything. So yeah, don't really know what I'm doing right now. I think I'm going to sit on the beach for a minute and then, I don't know, might head around the coast a bit. I think I just need to take like 20 minutes or so, see if my legs will start cooperating a bit more. I always love the view of Trevose Head. Would have loved to go over there today, but I don't think that I'm capable right now. Really having to take it quite easy. Again, it's one of these days where I'd love to stay out for a long time, but if I stop for a while, even though it's really quite hot, the wind cools me down very quickly. So if I do want to stay like a few hours, I need to find somewhere out of the wind. All the plants growing around the edge and on the sides of the hole there. Looks really nice. All along the edge of the cliffs too. They sometimes just feel like completely different places depending on which time of year you come. Wonder if it's going to be a very dry summer like last year. So it's just so dry, like everything became browny yellow. Might stop here for a bit. That's a helicopter over there. Probably the Coast Guard. You see them flying around sometimes. Helicopters coming. The Coast Guard. Do you have to say I really am quite picky about like going in the sea. I know I've said it before, but I do have a really poor tolerance for cold water. I keep telling myself that I want to improve that, but every time I try I'm still like, no, it's too much for me. I put my feet in, maybe up to my knees, and then I'm just like, no. So I'm thinking of going to the Isles of Scilly again this year for a few days. Just because I'm not really sure what else to do with my summer, and I can book that at relatively low cost, whereas like going to another country, it's a bit more difficult to organise. But when I went there last year, I always wanted to stop and go in the sea because it was quite hot at the time. It was July last year, so it was like mid-20s, I think. But every time I tried to go in the sea, I was just like, it's way too cold for me. I think up to waist height was the furthest that I managed to go in. I wouldn't mind going back there again this year. I'd probably do basically the same stuff that I did, but it was enjoyable enough. I'd really love to go and do something exciting. Like, there are so many places in this world that would be incredible to see. Just don't really have the resources to do it. I kind of want to save money at the moment because now that I've moved back to Cornwall, things aren't really accessible anymore. Like, I was living in a city for the last few years where I could do everything just by walking or using easily accessible public transport that ran throughout the day, and was a lot more frequent and could get you to basically anywhere you needed to go. It's not really the same down here, so I'm quite limited in what I can really do by myself. Like, I have taken buses to places before, or got buses home from places, but it's really limiting on where you can go and what the frequencies of those buses are. And if I wanted to get to any other places, like, I would have to change buses multiple times, and the trip potentially takes hours, which I'm not really into that. So I've been considering learning to drive, because for some reason I've never done that in my life yet. But if I'm doing that, then I don't really want to be spending too much money on, like, going anywhere. To be quite honest, most of my income, like, just goes straight into savings for my future. Although it just increasingly feels like that money will never actually do me any good. Because what am I going to use it for? Like, am I better off saving my money so that I potentially have a better last, I don't know, 20 or 30 years of my life? Or should I just like live in the moment and do things now while I'm at least relatively young? I don't even know if I consider myself to be even relatively young anymore. Anyway. I would like to think that I'm maybe 1/3 through my life, but maybe that's a bit optimistic on how long I'll live. I get my new glasses in a few days from now, so maybe it'll make a big difference, maybe it won't. I thought it seemed like quite different when they were testing my eyes in the optician. Like I felt I could see a lot more on the chart with the letters when they showed me what it should look like. But at the same time, I think like reading things and seeing things like outside in nature is kind of two completely different situations. Like I feel like I can see quite a lot of detail in the distance. Like I could look over to Harlan and I could probably count like the number of people standing on the beach. But then again, if I did that, I wouldn't be like 100% confident that I'm seeing like individual people or seeing the same person twice, which I guess is to do with astigmatism, because that causes like that kind of spread of the image that you see, so that like not only is it blurry, but you potentially see things more than once. It's to do with how the light focuses through the lens in your eyeball. If you're short-sighted, I think that's called myopia, then is it the light focuses before it reaches your retina or something? Or is it the other way around? See, now I don't remember, and now I'm not feeling confident to speak about it. But it's one of those. It's the same thing with farsightedness, but the opposite scenario. So either the light focuses before it reaches your retina, or it focuses at a point beyond that. I don't remember. But with astigmatism, it's like where the light is coming in from affects where the focal point is. So it's just like completely messed up. Yes, I've always been blessed with terrible eyesight, it seems. And all of these products, it'll say non-greasy, quick absorption. I just think it's like, it must be a lie, right? Whenever I put sun cream on, like it is greasy. My hands, like I need to wash my hands. That's why I don't like when I reapply sun cream when I'm out, because I've got nowhere to wash my hands with like soap to get the residue off. And I don't find that it's particularly quick absorption either, unless you consider like, I don't know, maybe an hour after you put it on, then you can only feel it a bit. I don't know. I wanted to try some different sun cream, but I was looking for like a small spray bottle that I could just use while I'm out, so that I don't have to get the proper sun cream bottle out and like put it all in my hands. If I can just spray it on and quickly rub it, that would be so much more convenient. But I don't know, I haven't found the ideal thing yet, if it exists. Kind of have to find the claims of sun cream a bit dubious though. Considering it says like 24 hours protection, water resistant. Then you look at the guidelines for use and it just says like reapply frequently, especially after going in the water. Like it's either 24 hours protection or it's not, and it's either water resistant or it's not. So I tend to just ignore those things. Like, I guess I would normally reapply minimum of 6 hours, and after going in the water, like as soon as I'm dry, I'd put the sun cream on again. I said minimum of 6 hours. I mean, like at minimum every 6 hours, or in other words, after waiting a maximum 6 hours, then reapply it. I don't know. Using minimum or maximum I find is always a really awkward way to explain when you're talking about a period of time. I don't know what's the easiest way to word that. It's like at most I would wait 6 hours without reapplying it. Ideally, do it more often than that. Desperately trying to get all the sun cream residue off of my hands. It's a hopeless endeavour. It's just not possible to get it off. Anything I touch will just get sun cream residue on it now. It's annoying. I was like thinking of putting an audiobook on my phone, but I really don't want to touch my phone now that I've got sun cream on my hands, because it just leaves marks all over it and I need to go and clean it. And it's just kind of gross. Something that probably seems obvious, but I guess I never really thought about at the time, because I got like tattoos on my arms. They get really hot in the sun because they're black ink, which will be absorbing the heat. My arms tend to get quite hot compared to the rest of my body. I like this one of the rat playing the guitar. There's another rat on this side with a witch hat. I don't know how to get a good view of it on the camera. I guess the one on my right arm, probably never see that in my videos because I'm always holding the camera with my right hand. That was my most recent one. Like some weird face and a snake. I don't know. I just draw weird stuff. I'm feeling much warmer out here though than I was on the beach. I guess on the beach it was more exposed to the wind, so that was cooling me down a lot, but it's very pleasant where I am right now. I think I'm running a bit low on water, so probably won't stay too much longer. I think it's about 7 hours since I left this morning now though, but probably I can drop by a shop on the way back, get an extra bottle of drink. I was thinking about audiobooks. I think this time last year I had just finished listening to the audiobook adaptations of the novelizations of the Alien films. That's a bit of a mouthful. Because I think it's like a year and a week ago, I think I mentioned in my last video, was the first time that I walked like over 50k when I went to Bedrethen Steps all along this coast path and then back. But I still have in my head like the association of like listening to the audiobook of Alien Covenant while walking along the cliffs over there. I think I might have said that in like my very first video, or at least I said it to the camera, but I might have cut it out of the video when I was walking to Newquay. But it's like every time I go past there, it just makes me think of Alien Covenant now. I don't know why. It's difficult to like remove associations between things that you have in your brain, because I guess that's just the way our brains work. That's what I'm thinking. Might head over there, see if I can check out the rock pool. There are people over there now, but maybe they'll be gone by the time I get there. So I still haven't really checked that out properly. I've been up and down this coast so many times, but I've never gone to actually see it up close anyway. But if I go over that way, the coast path goes up like along the edge of the first field and then goes around the cliff. But there's a second path that just sort of goes up along. It goes into the town, village, whatever you want to call it. And then you cross the road and there's another path that will go up to the Padstow farm shop, and then from there you can go down into Padstow if you continue following the paths, which is like a nice little shortcut from Travone back to Padstow. I normally like limit how far I go, or rather I am limited on how far I can go when it's hot, just because I don't really want to run out of drink. I don't know, it feels different now though. Like last year I wasn't into running, I just walked everywhere. You don't need quite as much water when you're walking, but still on a day like this easily could get through 1.5 or 2 litres in a bottle. And I want to keep trying to like push the distances that I can run, but it really doesn't seem like the weather is in my favour for doing that at the moment, and it won't be for some time, I suspect. But then there are other things that I can do, like I don't think you necessarily get the benefits you're looking for if all you do is try and increase the distance you're running. But I could try doing more varied things, like high intensity interval training, which is doing like sprinting, then jogging, then sprinting, then jogging. I guess if you're doing the running version of it. I normally, like, I've done that on a bike, but I haven't done that running. But also I think I could do with just practicing running on slopes. It's quite obvious why that would be, because running uphill takes a lot more energy than running on flat ground. And the last couple of times that I've been running, it has been flat, really. I mean, it's technically like uphill going up the Camel Trail to Bodmin, but the slope is just so gentle that it makes hardly any difference compared to like if I were somewhere around here. There are a lot more slopes, and running up and down stuff like that, well, mainly running up, because that's what uses the most energy. That would be also a good way to train. So I think like over the summer, unless I want to get up in the night time and go out at night when it would be cooler, or maybe late in the evening, I could probably do with just focusing on different things rather than just trying to run like long distance. I don't know what it is, just like the idea of doing like marathon and ultra marathon stuff, it just seems really appealing to me. And I know I've done stuff like that, but I haven't done it, you know, running the whole way or anything, or really even close to running the whole way. Like for where I am with my fitness right now, I think what I did a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what it translates to, maybe like I ran 3/4 of that marathon in total, or something close to that, probably. What my average speed was 8 point something, close to 9 kilometers per hour, I think, which my running speed is 10, 11-ish. My walking speed is around 6 or 7. So do the maths. If I assume it's 10 and 6, then getting to around 9 is roughly 3/4 of it running, which I think those assumptions are accurate enough. And I was quite happy to do that. Like, normally I don't really have trouble completing the distance, like regardless of how much I actually run or anything. I think in the past it's been closer to running half and walking the other half. I think I'm better than that now, or fitter than that. I don't know what happened today. I'm not on it today, but I don't know, like, I feel great. It's just my legs don't, if that makes any sense. So I don't know, maybe I need to focus on some other exercises just to strengthen my muscles. Before I try and like push to increase the amount that I'm running. It may just be that I wasn't warmed up enough today, or maybe I've not got the right energy, maybe I've not been sleeping enough. But like I said, it's probably a good idea that I start trying to do some exercises specifically to build strength as well in my legs, because that will be beneficial. I have to admit, I don't do a whole lot of work on my legs other than running. Well, running and walking long distances, and I think I just don't do it enough. I've said it before, but like, I used to run in the mornings several times a week, and I've not been doing that nearly enough this year. Definitely something that I should just like push myself to do. When I wake up in the morning, just go outside and run. I think to me, one of the most important things is just that I continue to have fun doing what I'm doing, which I do. Like, regardless of whatever problem I might have on the day, I always find that it was worth doing. And I think that's very important, because, you know, I don't feel like I'm just going to give up on trying to get better and become fitter, because at the end of the day, I enjoy what I'm doing. Like, sure, I can have dreams about being able to run a full marathon or ultra marathon or whatever, But I'm not that bothered about whether I really ever achieve that or not. It feels good when you improve and when you do like a bit better than you did the last time. But it's still, it just comes down to enjoying it in the end. You can see the moon up in the sky there. So here is an interesting apparent paradox. It's not really a paradox, that's why you call it an apparent paradox. But the moon and the sun are both visible in the sky in opposite directions. So why is it not a full moon? I guess the hint would be, why do I have a shadow? Because from where the sun is, if I put the sun directly behind me, then my shadow is in front of me. It's really just the same thing. Like, the sun and the moon are not equal distances away from where we are right now. The moon is very much closer to us. So you would expect the sunlight that's hitting the moon will be hitting the moon at roughly the same angle that the sunlight is hitting the earth right now. So my shadow, the projection of my shadow from where the sun is to, and from where I'm standing, is like in the direction I'm pointing my arm, and that's about the same as the directions the shadows will be on the moon. And that's why it's not a full moon, despite it appearing that both the moon and the sun are in the sky in opposite directions. It's really just 3D geometry, but because the distances and the scales involved are so big, our brains kind of struggle to comprehend such things. Like, we just see the sun in the sky and we don't really think about how far away it is. How far away is the sun? It's like 150 million kilometers, I think. And the moon is not that far away, so well, I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but having an understanding of these things, like the way things actually work, gives you so much more of an appreciation for like the nature of the universe. Like, when I look at everything around me and I know that it's all come about by natural processes, many of which we understand and many of which we still don't, it feels so much more significant than to assume that it just came into existence as it is now because somebody made it that way or whatever. I don't know why, but like something as simple as looking at the sun and the moon in the sky, it just gets me thinking about life in general. It makes me think, like, am I happy with my life? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Like, given the society we live in and the constraints under which I must live, like, am I happy with what I'm getting out of it? it's a very difficult question to answer something like that, because everyone has their own view on how society could be different, how they could best live their own life, and what that would be like, and why that is or isn't possible given the world that we do live in reality. But I don't know. I think in a lot of ways I'm relatively happy with what I do at the moment. Like, I just look over there and you can see like the coast path going up over there, and I think when I look in that direction and I just see that part of the cliff, like, I think about how many times I've walked there over the last like year and a half, and how every one of those experiences is like different, but they were all enjoyable. I think I've said it in my videos before, but like, my biggest regret will probably just be not being able to live long enough to see what changes in the future. Like, in the same way, thinking about whether what I do with my life is like good, or whether I'm happy with it given the constraints of the society that we live in. I really want to know where our species goes in the future. Well, not just our species, but life in general. Like, given the constraints of the laws of nature. Like, will our understanding of those natural laws change significantly? Like, will that happen in my lifetime? Will that happen, you know, X hundred years in the future? Will we come to understand the universe in ways that like completely opens up the possibilities of what we can achieve? Like, it's really easy to look at things like science fiction where they have, you know, established methods of space travel and stuff, but it just seems like all of that is so much more complicated in the real world. Obviously in many cases it is, because, you know, science fiction is at the end of the day just stories, and they often have plot devices or conveniences that allow interstellar or intergalactic travel to be easily achievable. In the real world, that's not the case. But will it ever be something that we do achieve? Like, that's the kind of question that I wish I could have an answer to. But I just kind of have to accept that I will never have the answer to that question, at least given our understanding of physics doesn't change drastically within my lifetime. But, you know, we know that our current understanding of physics is wrong, so that's a starting point. But I'd say we're probably also quite confident that it's not going to change so significantly that things which are currently, I don't want to say impossible, but highly implausible, would become possible. I suppose, like, morally, I should oblige myself to be part of the search for those answers while I'm alive. But I don't know. Academia didn't make me personally happy, and I think, to be honest, I think it's unlikely enough already that, well, one, that any, like, huge change in our understanding of physics is going to happen during my lifetime. And I mean, like, a very significant change. I think, it's possible during my lifetime we might make big advances in certain fields that allow us to understand the natural world better, but I don't think our understanding of it is going to fundamentally change while I'm alive. And I think equally it's highly, highly unlikely that me being in academia would make that any more probable. So I'm perfectly okay with my decision to no longer take part in that. To just sort of watch it from the sidelines while I try and concentrate on living my life in some way that keeps me relatively happy. I don't know, I think probably that's the best thing for me, is to try and ensure my own happiness if I can, because the only life that I get to experience is my own. Anyway, how did I get into talking about all of this? Getting like all existential again. I don't know, I don't really feel like that. There were times in my life where these kind of thoughts would terrify me, I think. Like, not talking about the natural world and that, but, really accepting that your time is finite and that you only get one chance to do with it what you want to do. I think when you really realize what that means, it can be very difficult to make peace with it. I mean, I think I went through, I don't know, was it like a 6-month period or something, where these thoughts were something of a fixation, and I was really trying to get my head around it. But I think now I just you just have to accept life as it comes and do your best to make of it whatever you can. For me, it's been like introducing so much more structure into my life, I think has really helped me. It may seem a bit obsessive, like I've got stats about everything since the 1st of January 2021. I don't know. For me, that was like part of taking control of my life and taking control of my health. Like, instead of just doing whatever every day and not really having any satisfaction from anything in my life, like, I changed that into being disciplined and sticking to that, because I think having discipline is, in a way, it gives you freedom over your life. Well, though that may sound counterintuitive, I don't think that it is, because if I hadn't done those things, then where would my life be now? I don't think I'd be nearly as happy as I am. I might have done a lot of things which, in the short term, might have appeared to make me happier, but that really had more of a negative outcome on my life than the way that I live now. And I think about, stuff that I do every weekend now. I really enjoy what I do, and yet, like, if I hadn't started trying to, like, take control of my life in that way, I'd never be doing any of these things. And I don't even know what I would be doing. I would say the one sort of unsolved problem that I have at the moment is socializing, because socializing is something that I used to do, and then there was the pandemic, and following that, socialization sort of just fell off the edge of the cliff. And it never really came back. Like, in a way, it gave me an opportunity to really look at my life and start working on myself and being more of the person that I want to be, and getting to a point where I'm, relatively happy with how I live and what I do. And I think I have a lot more control over my life now than I did. But I don't really have friends anymore. But I've never really been good at that. I feel a bit lost in that sense. And I don't really know how important it is to me to have, like, socialization in my life. There were a lot of good things that came out of socializing, but there are also a whole lot of bad things. Don't know, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Like, when I say good and bad things, I mean, in terms of good things, like, they were potentially some of the best moments of my life. In terms of bad things, potentially some of the worst moments of my life. I don't know, I kind of see socialization as, like, a human need on some, like, instinctual level, and therefore I probably must need that as well, but I don't know how much it would really benefit me. but that shouldn't stop me from trying to seek it out at some point, really. I think it's been like ages since I said I wasn't going to hang around for very long. I'm gonna go through my footage later and I'm gonna find that there's like 10 minutes of me running and walking, and then there's like hours of just random talking about stuff. It'll be weird. I don't know how I'm going to edit it together, so I don't know how coherent I am when I just start talking about stuff, when it's just stuff that's going through my head. So, you know, when you have stuff going through your head like that, it can be difficult to translate everything into coherent sentences and words, and then your brain might just decide to completely change the subject, and suddenly you're not thinking about those things at all anymore, which then means if you haven't sort of caught up in your speech, then you're just thrown off because you're trying to talk about stuff that's just gone from your head. I do get that sometimes, like I start trying to say something, or I'm talking, like I'm making one point that's supposed to be setting the scene for something else that I'll say afterwards, and then I'll just completely forget what the original point was that I was like setting myself up for. I think that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last like half an hour. When I looked at the sun and the moon, and then I started talking about life, and then I don't know if that was going somewhere or or what. Like, was I going to make like a final point in summary and I just completely forgot what that was? Or was there something specific that I was trying to be getting at that I just never actually got back to? I don't know. And it seems weird because your brain doesn't really seem to store that information. Like, you get one thing and you start pulling all these ideas out of it, but if you forget something that you were working from, it's like that was some association that you had with one of the things that you were saying. That will still be there somewhere, but that's very difficult to recall. I don't know if that makes sense. I guess it's like you open a book, you cover the page numbers and you read one sentence, then you close the book and you try and flick back to that same page and read the same sentence without the surrounding context and without knowing where in the book you were. That would be very difficult to do, but that information is still there. Like, it's not gone anywhere. It's just that the process to retrieve it is not something that your brain is necessarily well adapted to. So I think I looked at the path over there and I started talking about stuff. I think I remembered now. I was gonna say, like, because I always used to listen to audiobooks all the time when I was out, like this particular coast path all around this area has been like the backdrop for so many interesting stories that I've heard. I don't know if that's part of why I enjoy being outside so much, because it sort of gives this, I don't know, like this extra quality to the land, like it has some wealth of stories attached to it, because that's my personal experience where I've heard all of these stories where I've been walking around. Or whether that's like something separate, because like honestly wherever I go I tend to just enjoy walking around and seeing everything. Anyway, if I keep going on and on, I'm gonna run out of battery on this GoPro really quickly. I'm already through one battery and halfway through the next one. Most of that I have used up just talking absolute nonsense right here. So I think I'm actually going to get moving again. Something I've definitely mentioned before, I think in a couple of my earlier videos, was that this backpack was like digging into my shoulders. Maybe if I put myself on the camera you can see it's the same backpack that I always use. That stopped being an issue for quite a while, but I think the reason for that is because I was wearing a coat. Like I've been wearing my thin waterproof coat because it was, you know, rainy and cold for quite some time. It wasn't cold enough to wear like the thermal layers like I used to wear, but it was cold enough and generally wet enough that I'd rather wear a coat. But I think that protected my shoulders from feeling whatever it was, and I'm pretty sure like after the last time when I went running 2 weeks ago with this backpack, I'm pretty sure it just literally like cut my neck and my shoulder. And I think that's probably happening again today, so most likely I will need to get a new backpack. So I was over there for quite some time, but now I'm at the rock pool. Let's see what the water's like. I dunked it up to my knees. It's cold. It's actually not that bad, but I'm just scared. It's not that cold, it's just I won't be able to dry myself because I have no towel. So I kind of have to just commit to getting my clothes soaking wet. I couldn't do it. I have to settle for just up to the knees. I think definitely at this time of the day it would be irresponsible to get my whole body wet when I have no way of drying myself off. But I did sit there with my legs in for quite a while. My feet are now kind of damp and cold in my shoes, but otherwise I feel fine. I think it was a bit cold at first, but once your feet have been in for a while, it doesn't feel like much of anything. But now is probably the time to be heading back, because I don't have like another top or anything. If the sun goes too far down, then I have to walk back like in the shade. I think it'll start to feel a bit cold if the sun goes down too much. Anyway, this is the path that I mentioned earlier. Goes up through these couple of farm fields. Never walked through Travone itself at this time of year. It's weird because like it's actually populated. There's something going on at the bar, but usually when I come through, or when I have been through this way, it's not been during summer months. And this path goes through a couple of fields. It'll go up past the Padstow farm shop and then onto the hill that goes down into Padstow. Some parts of this are slightly overgrown. It's not too bad though. Haven't had to wade through any stinging nettles. So really I should be happy. That is the farm shop, which is currently closed. Next path goes through here. This joins the road into Padstow. Then I think I probably ought to grab an extra drink and then I can head back down the camel trail. This hill goes down into Padstow. I think I will cut across the churchyard. There should be a path somewhere here. Just goes up the hill. It's probably this way. Rather than walking through the centre. Don't know what that noise was. The Saints Way. Haven't been through this housing estate before. Fully expect to get lost. I've reached a road. I think I expected to be coming out a bit further up. Just coming down onto the camel trail now. Went to the Tesco. Got an extra drink. So just making my way back now. Have been completely forgetting to do an ending for this video. I've just been walking back down the trail. Probably seen it countless times before. So I guess I just kind of wasn't paying attention. Anyway, I don't know what this video is going to end up being. feel like I filmed like 10 minutes of me actually doing stuff, and then the rest was just whatever I was going on about earlier, just speaking to the camera. But anyway, I hope there was something enjoyable in there nonetheless. If you do enjoy the videos, remember to like, subscribe to the channel to see what I do in the future. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.